it don't matter what race or creed or color. You love this land and you're my brother. That ain't place to know your stand. If you say you can't breathe, I'll show you we can. Ain't never gonna stop believing. We were born for freedom. We're born for freedom.
All right. What's up, Ragers? How's everyone doing today? As y'all know, I love talking about men. I like boys. I mean, I like girls too, but I like boys. I love boys. I love boys and I love men. Y'all know I am a huge men's rights advocate. I've definitely considered myself a lifelong honey badger. I was a tomboy for most of my life, and I managed men in the culinary industry for most of my life. Needless to say, I have a hard time finding one, but that's okay. My standards are high, and it's hard to find good men. It really is. But I thought it was a subject worth discussing, and so did my guest, who I will introduce in just a minute. Men get a really bad rap. Men get a really, really bad rap in this world, and especially with what postmodern feminism has done to attack men, to basically attack all the great qualities that men have and why they are biologically necessary for a healthy and functional society. No one really thinks about why God created men to be the dominant sex. Now, I will say, disclaimer, I don't necessarily think that men are smarter. Again, I have had to fix problems that men have created for 2 decades. It's what I do, it's what I'm good at. Men are not necessarily smarter than women. We are equal in value, we are not equal in capability. And that's okay. I like that. That's why I now embrace my femininity, because I enjoy that I am not equal in capability. I enjoy that they are not equal in capability to women in certain ways. This is the yin and yang of biology that God has created, that our society and postmodern feminism is stepping on and destroying. And it's not okay. It's not cool. It's hurting a lot of people. I see it all over TikTok, all over Instagram. Everything is considered sexual harassment now. Guys are getting in trouble left and right for just flirting with women. It's getting really, really out of control. I don't know if you guys saw the issue last week with the boys that have gotten suspended from school for misgendering, I guess, what was a trans student, and that is now considered sexual harassment. Are you fucking kidding me? This is what men go through. There's the child support issues that they got to deal with. There is the visitation issues that they got to deal with. There are the quota hire issues that they got to deal with. And on top of just not even being able to talk to women anymore, which puts single women like me in a really bad spot, because men just won't fucking talk to us. Everything is sexual harassment now. This idea of what toxic masculinity has become is destroying not just men, but it's destroying their relationships with us as women. Now, for today's guest, he has been on the show before. He is one of the TikTokers that I have a huge, huge respect for. He is ex-Army. He's from Chi-Town. He's Blaxican, he's Blaxican. So, I feel like he's my brother from another mother. He's super intelligent. He himself is a father of 3. He's doing great things in the veteran community. He is one of the founding members of the professorship. And I'm happy to have him back to talk about this subject. Welcome to the show, Papi. Bienvenido.
Thanks for having me back. Thanks for having me back.
I am, well, yeah, I'm glad that you are back. I'm glad we could schedule this. I don't want to take up a whole lot of your time. We discussed some topics I wanted to cover. But before we get into anything, there was a song that I wanted to share with everyone. And I talked to you a little bit about it, and I don't want to get a copyright strike. So I'm just going to go ahead and read the lyrics of this song. Now, we all know, for those of us who are, older than the age of 30, we all know and love Miss Alanis Morissette. And sometimes I wonder if Alanis Morissette is woke, if she's a feminist. It seems like she is. Okay, Alanis Morissette has made a lot of music on a lot of albums about abusive men, toxic men, narcissistic men, men who abuse their power in relationships, as well as men who abuse their power in society. However, there is a song that she wrote from the 2003 album. Well, it wasn't Hands Clean. I don't think it was Hands Clean. I'll get the name of the album in a second. But this is a song called A Man. And I wanted us to read this together because I feel like maybe Alanis Morissette might have seen this third wave feminism, postmodern feminism coming down the pike 20 years ago. And maybe this is what her response was to it. I think it's a beautiful song. Let me make this a little bigger. I am a man, as a man, I've been told. Bacon is brought to the house in this mold. Born of your bellies, I yearn for the cord. Years I have groveled, repentance ignored. I have been blamed, I have been repented. I'm working my way toward our union mended. I am a man who has grown from a son, been crucified by enraged women. I am a son who was raised by such men. I am often reminded of the fools I'm among. And I have been shamed. I have relented. I'm working my way toward our union mended. I have been shamed. I have repented. I'm working my way toward our union mended. We don't fare well with endless reprimands. We don't do well with a life served as a sentence, and this won't work well if you're hell bent on your offense. Because I am a man who understands your reticence. I am a man who still does what he can to dispel our archaic reputation. I am a man who has heard all he can because I don't fare well with endless punishment. Because I have been blamed and I have repented, I'm working my way toward our union mended. I have been blamed and I have repented, I'm working my way toward our union mended. We don't fare well with endless reprimands, and we don't do well with a life served as a sentence. And this won't work if you're hell bent on your offense, because I am a man who understands your reticence. All right. I think that's a pretty deep song. I think she understood what was going on. She understood how men were being treated, and she understood where all of this might be going. So before we get into the actual subject of the day, Papi, why don't you tell us the origins of the term toxic masculinity?
So there's honestly a bit of debate on that. One of them I could see being more realistic than the other. So toxic masculinity used to be attributed to how men don't speak on feelings, how we're not allowed to cry, how we're meant to always be the strong ones, the rock of the family, the rock of the house, the rock of the friendship, which is typically true. It's how we're raised. We're raised that we need to be the strong ones. We need to control our emotions, bury them if need be, so that we can put on that strong front and keep everything together for everybody else. Now, the newer definition of toxic masculinity is pretty endless. I think it is more toxic feminism just being pushed onto the male title. I cannot hear you.
Oops, sorry.
There we go.
So sorry. So we talked about the subject of the show is toxic masculinity versus toxic people. However, you mentioned toxic femininity, which is something I could go on for days about, but I wanted to get your take on that. What is toxic femininity?
So I don't think that toxic masculinity by its definition today exists. I think that it is purely toxic femininity. Women have taken what used to be a necessary, healthy movement of trying to get equal rights in terms of voting in the career, professional areas in their careers, and promotions and equal pay and things of that nature. And they took it to, well, we can do everything a man can, and we don't need men. It transitioned from we would like to be able to do the same things and we have the right to do the same things to we don't need you, which is not the case, because you have now turned men into these women like men. Like, you can't open a door for them because they can open a door. Well, you were always able to open a door. Before the feminist movement, before women's rights movement, you could physically open a door. But we did it as a courtesy and a respect. We also do it for elderly people and really do it for anyone. It's called manners. However, then they go date these men that are very hip to feminism. And when they're not what they expect a man to be, they call them F-boys, right? So I think that toxic masculinity in its current definition is really just toxic feminism.
I agree. It's funny you should say that. Doesn't Alanis say that in her song? She says, we don't fare well with endless reprimands. We don't do well with a life served as a sentence. I don't think you guys do. And if women don't get their shit together real quick, no wonder, the MGTOW movement has taken off the way it has. No wonder.
And I think she did, actually. Like, that one specific portion there, I thought she had an insight to men are going to find the happy medium of being a man and feeling that man's role, that societal norm, cultural norm of a man's role, while still understanding, like, hey, you're allowed to have feelings, you're allowed to need to talk to somebody, you're allowed to need to do this and that. But feminism is going to put them in a different place, because they're going to sit there and constantly reprimand you for being a man, talk to you down for this, and make it seem like you are in constant servitude, when that's not our role. No. Which kind of goes into one of the topics you had about protection and things like that.
Okay. All right. So these are the notes I have, and you're welcome to stop me, jump in, take the floor, whatever you want to do. So what would be considered traditional? Hold on. Okay. So I literally, because I'm a Virgo and a weirdo, I literally wrote down all my thoughts, but this show is about you. This show is about you. So what would be considered toxic masculinity by today's standards, not in the original sense of the word, like you explained, but by today's standards: service and protection of women, integrity, healthy relationships, physical competitiveness, economic and creative competition, meaning like inventing things and, machines or whatever, and leadership. That would be considered toxic masculinity by today's third wave postmodern feminist definition. However, we have agreed that the real toxicity in both men and women, whether it be beta males or toxic feminism, would actually be NPD, narcissist, borderline personality, which is very, very destructive and dangerous in men, histrionics, hypersexuality, porn addiction, and fuckboys, the reduction in testosterone, cowardice and laziness, and compliance. Take the floor, Papi. Say whatever you want.
All right, so I 100% agree with you. My take on it is, my personal take on it is that toxic masculinity no longer exists. You know, nobody's going to shame you for having feelings. Nobody's going to shame you for being like, hey, babe, I didn't like that. You know, made me feel a certain kind of way. Nobody's going to shame you for that. If your buddy dies overseas, I haven't seen a woman that I've met that would shame a guy for shedding a tear. You know, that old definition is gone. Toxic masculinity to me does not exist. It is just toxicity or toxic people. And the traits that you can find in a toxic man, you can point, I can find you a woman who has the same ones. All right. Physical competitiveness. Why is being healthy toxic masculinity? And why is it toxic masculinity? If I want to go get some guns in the gym and get some gains, why is that toxic masculinity? Because there's plenty of women in that same gym I'm at getting them gains too. Or trying to get that big butt, you know, little waist, big butt, thick thighs. They're in the gym getting it. Why are they not toxic women? But I'm toxic for being in the gym, trying to work out.
Well, it is toxic because diet culture is hate speech. Because losing weight is triggering people. And again, it goes back to that borderline and that histrionics. Those personalities are the ones who are afraid of self-improvement.
And that's exactly what it is, though,
which
because
is
you can sit there, you'll call it fat shame. I'm like, so fat shaming is bad. But then you're going to sit here and tear me down for going in the gym, so you're going to fit shame me? Again, I can flip it right on you. It's just, if I'm fat shaming you, then I'm being toxic. That's a toxic behavior, because you know what? You're you, and I don't know what you're doing. You could be walking 10 miles a day. You could be getting in the gym. You could be trying to eat right. You could have a hyperactive thyroid disorder. I don't know your life. And if you're trying to be better yourself, why am I going to talk about you? But don't talk about me for going in the gym. It's the same principle. It's just flipped. Fat shame versus fit shame. Everything you can do, I can flip on you. It is just toxic behavior. And it is, I think it goes into that histrionics on how we view certain things based on emotion. You know, toxic person is going to sit there and be like, you know, let's use me and Professor Mike. For me to have Professor Mike's like Grand Canyon abs, I have to go through a very hard cut, like a very hard cut. I've done it for my shows. It's ridiculous. Mike eats honey buns and pizza. So as a narcissist, or as how I view that and my emotions react, I can be jealous because he can have these abs. Whereas Mike can turn around and be jealous that he eats so many calories a day, but he can't get as big as me. We're two guys looking at each other, viewing it in a different fashion. Whereas if we just looked at it as, man, he's doing great things, all of a sudden it's not toxic. You know, hey man, how did you get that like that? Could be genetic, don't know. But you ask, and I think that how we play off things and having emotions all over the place and that directly interfere with how we treat others, I think that's a big part of it. And that kind of is histrionics and narcissism, I guess, in the same thing. But and it's just, it blows my mind today. Like, you don't want a man, but then you don't want a fuckboy. So what do you want? What's left? What is there left?
That's where, that is the golden question. That is the $64,000 question. That's what concerns me for the future, because what is left is MGTOWs. What is left are the men who have decided that marriage is not worth their time. There aren't enough feminine women. Marriage is more of a hassle and a cost. Okay, relationships are not worth their time. Leadership, is not going to have a reward. Leadership creates a target on your back, and therefore being a leader in the family or the community or your job is now something that's going to put a target on your back. So that's not even worth it. What we get now is eunuchs. We get eunuchs with penises. We get men that are people pleasers. We get men that are mediocre in terms of business, mediocre in terms of inventing things and being innovative in whatever industry they are in. There's no economic competition. There's the risk is not worth the reward for them. And men are naturally drawn to have to make riskier decisions, if I could just generalize that for a second. But it's that risk that gives us policemen and firefighters. It's the risk that gives us men that are willing to commit, you know?
You brought up a great point there. All right, so women want to be men, right? Anything you can do, I can do better, right?
Mm-hmm.
So let's bring just my military experience in. So women were not allowed into combat arms, ever. They were not allowed. Women complained that they did not get promoted at the rate that infantrymen did or combat arms did. And it was because you get promoted from, lower enlisted through, a junior non-commissioned officer like a sergeant, and then a staff sergeant, et cetera. And then you become a senior non-commissioned officer. Well, these are all based on promotion points. So our points were lower. But these women in these other jobs in the military, other MOSs in the military, didn't live in the field like we did. They got to re-enlist for school options and literally just show up in the morning and be like, hey, I'm alive, I'm going to school. And not actually Army for like 6 months for a re-enlistment option. Or they would know that they were going to get off by like 3 o'clock in the afternoon, 5 o'clock at night. And they went home every night and they did online school. So their civilian education points would get maxed out. They could go to schools more so often than we could, where they would get points for schools. And unfortunately, we die more. So we need to refill ranks more. And so the government stated that they would conduct tests, and they did it in the Marine Corps. They had a company. So they had 4 platoons. 2 were all male, 2 were integrated. The top performing platoon and the top performing squad that was integrated was far worse than the worst all male squad and platoon. It proved to decrease the lethality of the force. The women couldn't shoot as accurately. Women are great shots. Actually, females are better snipers than men. But in a combat situation, under the stress that we go through with carrying the same weight as us and moving the same movements, their body had a higher physical toll on it. And so they couldn't even control their breathing to shoot accurately. They had no more strength to drag somebody who was shot out of fire and save their life. It was proven, and this study was headed by a woman. And they did it anyway. Well, guess what? Women are now allowed in combat arms. It's still over 90% men. Because women don't want it. They don't want to, they were complaining about it, but they don't actually want to go do it.
It's funny you should bring that out. About a year ago, I believe it was Victoria or Queensland, Australia, where the police academy had to lower their physical fitness standards so more women can get in, because Australia's woke now. And then everybody failed out.
Well, it's really bad
Everybody
because
failed out. So it's like, you asked for it, you got it. It's like we're not talking about women who are, Ronda Rousey and G.I. Jane. Okay. We're not talking about those girls who maybe you would be able to trust your life with. Okay. We're not talking about those girls. We're talking about women who just want to do this because maybe it's I don't know, maybe it's a dream for them. Maybe they watched G.I. Jane too many times. I don't know. But again, this is where, as a woman, embracing your femininity and acknowledging your limitations is not a bad thing. It's a good thing. Okay. But this self esteem fucking issue that's happening in our generation, honestly, I think that it's a
I,
cause for everything. What does Alanis say? She says, um, this won't work well if you're hell bent on your offense. People are offended by things because they have low self esteem. You're not offended by Mike, and Mike's not offended by you. You're maybe a little brotherly competition, but you're not jealous of one another because you understand your body's different than his. Your body requires a different diet than his. It's just genetics. It could be anything. You train differently. It's okay. I'm not jealous of any other woman out there. And I have body dysmorphia, but
oh,
I'm
you
not
doing it,
jealous
girl.
of other women.
You're slaying it. If I had that fan, I'd put it up for you.
Aw. But seriously, I don't have the low self-esteem, so I embrace other women's beauty, and I embrace other women's fitness, and I embrace other women who might have naturally better things than I have, and that's okay because I'm not intimidated by it. But it's these third wave feminists that honestly believe that they're communists. They believe everyone is supposed to be equal. Everyone's supposed to look the same. Everyone's supposed to afford the same things. Everyone's supposed to be able to get the same man. No, bitch, you can't get the same men that I can. And there are other women who I can't get the kind of men that they have. It doesn't make anybody bad. We don't need to be offended by every fucking thing. And again, it goes back to that low self-esteem. It's that low self-esteem that causes people with narcissistic personality disorder to act out. It's low self-esteem that causes people with borderline personality, male or female, to act out. And the same thing with people with histrionic personality disorder. They act out because they feel less than, and then they are aggressively trying to, I guess, what they consider legally or governmentally level the playing field when it's not even that fucking serious, bitch. Sit down. Sit down.
You identified the toxicity right there. It's self-esteem. It is self-esteem. And you're right. I put probably 30-something females through. And 2 of them, in my opinion, should have graduated. 2. And they were bad. One of them was this dainty little girl, but she was a beast. Like, she outperformed, hands down, 80% of the men.
Mm-hmm.
To a male standard.
Yeah.
She was an animal, and she didn't take nothing from nobody. She broke her hip at the end of the cycle, but had completed all the required training, so she graduated. She recovered that, and then went to Ranger School, went straight through. And I know there's some people watching this that might be vexed, but they pushed her through. No, they did not. She's not that type of person, because I wouldn't have graduated her. And I've heard now she's out in Germany, and she is literally the best company commander on that installation. So, like,
there are some women like that. That's how I feel about myself in my chef career. I didn't get nobody pushed me through. I fucking earned it because I was stronger, I was smarter, I was faster. My customer service skills were better. My ability to understand and pay attention, my cognitive function was better. I was better than 80% of the people I worked with. I'm proud of that. But again, women like us are fucking anomalies. We are not the norm. You think if I had a restaurant, I'd be hiring female chefs? Fuck no. Fuck no. They would have to be so good because they cannot take the pressure. Just like in combat, they cannot take the fucking heat. They can't take the sweat. They can't take the pressure. They can't take they're just not built for it. Most women aren't built for it. Mexican women and Russian women, yeah, I'll hire them, but I wouldn't hire no black bitch and I wouldn't hire no white bitch. I'm just being honest.
That is hilarious because her name was Vargas.
People are cultural. Some women in different cultures are culturally different. Russian female chefs and Hispanic female chefs are the only ones I would ever hire. But I wanted to move on. What do you know about the reduction of testosterone in men right now?
Oh, man. Well, some of that is by the desired outcome of what they expect a man to be today, which is a lot more which is a beta. They want you to be a beta. You know, they want you to be a beta. So that kind of drives some of that. However, a lot of it is honestly what they're putting in our food. What they're putting in our food is lowering testosterone. That's one, right? Drink soy milk, do this, do that. I mean, how many dudes do you see at freaking Starbucks ordering a bunch of shit with soy foam milk shit, frappa cappuccino, fucking whatever? I drink black fucking coffee. That stuff all lowers your testosterone. A lot of the preservatives they put in food lowers your testosterone. It's like they're demasculating men. They're manufacturing that demasculation of men in society. And the other thing is an old saying, right? It's hard times create strong men. Strong men create good times. Good times create soft men. And it's a repeat cycle. And this country has gone through its hard times, and it has bred strong men to get America through it, and strong women. And then they created soft times where we can sit here and complain about the oppression in our country and the bullshit that we have going on from our $1,000 iPhones, or our freaking, $1,000, $2,000 computers with our $400 shoes and our $200 designer jeans. We are creating a decrease in testosterone by culture and by food, honestly.
It's funny you talked about soft men and soft times. I wanted to bring something up. Okay. Girlfriend, don't get mad. We're just going to talk about this for a split second. Speaking of soft men and testosterone reduction, how do you think that ties into pornography addiction or hypersexuality? And the reason I bring this up is because there's a certain fraternity that I used to rock with, and they have a no flapping rule. So they can only flap once a month. Okay. And the idea is, and you understand this because we've talked about the art of war. We know what a man's chi energy is, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
By wasting that chi energy, either through pornography or through having multiple meaningless sexual relationships, a man is losing his chi. So do you think that there's a correlation between the reduction of testosterone and hypersexuality or porn addiction?
I do. But I think that goes more into play in what you said about in today's day and age that marriage is stupid. Oh, I got to work at a relationship. Oh, fuck it. And that's the thing that people don't understand. Like, the most rewarding thing you can do in life is to find a partner who matches your energy, because you're going to do great things. Whatever that is true happiness to you, whatever that equates to, that's what you're going to get. And love is easy. Relationships are work. And this soft ass generation, not just men, but women, don't want to put the work in. They don't want to put the effort. They watch the Kardashians and this bullshit fakeness, and they think that it should be easy. And it's not. Or, like the Kardashians, oh, well, I got options and I can just go get another one. But that's not how it works. And that leads to things like meaningless sexual encounters. That leads to things like porn addiction. That leads to setting unrealistic standards and expectations. I mean, look at like what they call, look at the women you see on TV that have this plastic surgery and then they try to fucking lie about it. And they set this unrealistic body standard for normal people. Yeah. Well, you're setting an unrealistic porn standard too. Sex standard with porn. Like, most women aren't going to sit there and do some of the shit these women are doing, because they're also getting paid a lot of money to do it. And they're also not everybody's kink. And it just doesn't work like that. And I think, personal opinion, I think obviously you got to be equipped and know how to use what you got to make a fun time, a fun night, right? And women gotta, don't be a dead fish, right? But I think the better the connection or the emotional tie you have to somebody, the better the sex is automatically. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Creative and economic competition. How is feminism affecting a man's willingness to move up or be able to move up professionally?
Honestly, other than them complaining about not being able to when they're not as qualified, I don't think it does at all. If it came to the military, I don't give a shit if you're a dude or a girl. If you're competing for a position that I am, or a promotion that I am, or a school slot that I am, you're dead to me. I don't know you. I don't like you no more. I'm going to beat you and I'm going to bury you.
Yes.
But now
That's how
you're
I
gonna
feel.
now if there's 7 dudes and 1 chick and everybody in the position is a guy, but they're going to promote you because they need to meet the equal opportunity standards, right? Or the affirmative action standards, then it affects me because I deserve that job more than you, but I'm not getting it, which might then go, well, what the fuck? Why am I going to even try? I was better than her and she got the job just because she has to, and that can affect women too. That can affect overall business. If I know that let's say I come into a company that's been well established and the federal government has now regulated, due to this big feminist movement of pay equality, that more women must be put in executive positions. Well, there are going to be women who are semi-good at their job that know that that's all they have to be in order to move up now, because there's positions available that have to be filled with them. Whereas I have to work 20 times as hard to possibly rob that. So, and not get it, and if everybody gets the same, or everybody doesn't get what they deserve, then what's the point of trying? It's like communism. What's the point of me trying to go through 8+ years of medical school to be a freaking doctor to make this money and help? Like, obviously, want to help people too, but right, it's a high-paying job. What's the point of me trying to do that if I'm going to get the same pay as the fucking garbage man? I'll go be a fucking garbage man.
Exactly.
Like it takes away your competitive drive. And it's the same thing with like women in soccer. And Ronda Rousey is my favorite. She's a badass bitch. Because of how she spoke. She's the highest paid fighter in the MMA because of these reasons. And women in female soccer teams are talking shit about how much more the men make. Then make your sport more entertaining and draw a bigger crowd, because they actually get a higher percentage than the men do. But they don't attract as much of a crowd, so the revenue stream is not as large. Now, if you had that percentage, but you drew as much visibility and as much sponsorship and as much money into your sport, you would make more than the men for the same thing. You're actually paid at a higher percentage rate than the men are. But it's crying. Cry baby, cry baby.
Well, go ahead.
I was say we're a generation of crybabies.
For real. I know. So just real quick, I just wanted to touch on real quick what quota hires and diversity hires actually, what happens after you get hired. Okay. What happens after you get hired is, if you are unqualified, either because of your lack of talent, your lack of experience, whatever it may be, you get hired for your gender, you get hired for your sexual orientation, or you get hired for your skin color, then what happens? You are now throwing yourself into a position that you're not qualified for. What happens next? Oh, now you run the company into the ground. And now everybody loses their fucking job, or now everybody gets downsized. Okay, that's one thing that can happen. Or like what was happening during COVID for, I guess, some of the places that were essential, is you get hired so that the state would give you a higher PPP loan for having a person of color. And then guess what? Since they didn't really need you in the first place, then they fire you after they cash the check. Okay. These things happen. It was happening in California all the time. Okay. You get hired because of the color of your skin, your sexual orientation, or your gender. Then you are thrown into a world you're not qualified for. Now the requirements of the job become greater than you can handle, the stress of the job was not something you were mentally or emotionally prepared for, then you quit anyway. You see, quota hires, diversity hires are the worst thing for a company. They are the absolute worst thing for a company. Gavin Newsom out here talking about, oh, every board with a company with a certain number of employees has to have a female in a chief position. Well, what if that female you hire isn't qualified? Now your COO or your CFO or whoever it is, now they're going to run the whole company into the ground just because you needed a pussy in that seat. You needed a vagina in that seat. Come on, guys.
Or
People
think about
don't
this.
understand this will blow back on everybody.
We put a vagina in this seat. Meanwhile, 3 men and 6 women at a much lower position who needed that job to take care of their family are out of work.
Oh, and let's not even talk about our vice president and our newest SCOTUS. I mean, again, same thing. Diversity hire, and look what you got.
That's why Joe is still in office. The whole plan, in my opinion, was they were going to win with Joe, and they were going to say, oh, he's mentally unstable, and put Kamala up. Then they realized, wow, people hate her more than Joe. What are we going to do? And nobody likes Nancy.
Nasty Nancy. Is there anything you wanted to contribute to this very special interview? I think we covered a lot. I'm happy that we got to record talking about this subject.
Yeah, I got something real quick in closing. I have 2 daughters. My daughter that is a sophomore in college, she's 19 years old. She has a boyfriend. She's had a couple. The one that she's with now is the longest she's been with. He's a good kid. He is the closest to me that she's dated. He brings her food in the middle of the night when she's studying, or a milkshake or something. She doesn't open the car door. She doesn't open the door. He pays for everything. Even though they both work and he doesn't have to, he does. He takes her shooting, taught her how to shoot a gun. I already took her. When he does work on his car, he teaches her what he's doing, walks him through it. You need to think about it from a perspective of, if you have a daughter, you want your daughter to be competent and capable, right? But what if something happened? What if she got a medical condition? What if children were into play and she had to stay home for that little bit? Is some fuckboy going to take care of everything? Are they going to run everything? Are they going to do everything? No. So make sure you raise your sons to be the men you want your daughters to date. And make sure you live to be the man you want your daughter to date. And it ain't a fuckboy. And it ain't a beta. That's it. You're muted again, girl.
Well said. I don't think we could end on any of a higher note than that. That's very inspiring. And we're very proud of you and your daughters. Your children have a great dad. And if
you.
no one's told you, thank you for all the work you've put in. We here on Red Pill Rage, thank you, not just for your service, but for being a leader in the community, for being a leader in your family.
We ain't raising no liberals here, girl. One of my proudest dad moments, I came home and I take a shit. I go to grab the toilet paper, and there's a picture of Hillary Clinton's face on every square. I was like, who bought this? And it was my daughter.
Oh, good girl. Good girl.
She's the best.